And we are back with the Jader and Kyle Show, episode 8, coming to you live. Welcome, everybody. This is going to be a fun episode tonight. We got a lot of things to talk about. My name is Kyle. If you don't know that yet, we've been doing this for 2 months now. And here, joined by my buddy Jader. Jader, what's going on, man?
What up, man? What up? How's it going?
I see you wearing that baseball shirt.
Yeah, dude, this is actually a little quick shout out to my girlfriend that got me this dope shirt. I was actually gonna wear this at the Schmoedown, which I probably still will, but it is from A League of Their Own, and it's Avoid the Clap, Jimmy Dugan.
Yep.
when he signs that to the autograph ball. So dope shirt. Obviously we're gonna talk some baseball today. So I felt it appropriate. I'm actually wearing this shirt for the first time right now. I was saving it for the Schmoedown. Because I like wearing movie related shirts or whatever.
Right.
But whatever, that is what it is. Good as episode as any.
It's a good foreshadowing because we're going to be talking about Field of Dreams later today, the movie you guys voted on, but we also are going to be talking a little bit other sports like The Last Dance. The Last Dance documentary it's been huge these past couple months, and Jader finally caught up to it, so we're going to talk about it a little bit on here. But also we have some other DC news to get to. Last week we had a big discussion about the Snyder Cut. That news came out, and then a couple days later we had more news come out. And that was Henry Cavill is back as Superman. This report came out from Variety, and they were saying that Henry Cavill is in negotiations to return as Superman to a DC film. Not a Man of Steel 2, but a cameo in an upcoming DC film. So I don't know about this. News is weird to me because
look at this smile.
Why was he gone in the first place? That's my first thought. It's like, how can he shuffle?
I feel like he was like, I'm gonna be out before I get outed or fired. You get me? Like, I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever.
You can't fire me. I quit. That's
pretty much. I feel that this might start off as a cameo. I feel like this is like the biggest time ever for DCEU fans to really demand a Man of Steel 2. If anybody has the power to do that right now, it's the fans. I feel, again, and I've stated on this show over and over and over again, how much I love Henry Cavill as Supes. So seeing that he's even coming back, I was excited. I mean, spoiler alert, even though the movie came out last year, Shazam came out last year, right?
Yeah, 2019.
I'm thinking it came out such a long time ago, and it didn't. But that cameo that we got from Superman got me so excited. But at the same time, it was the biggest like tease ever, like worst case of blue balls ever, because I thought we were gonna actually see Cavill in the suit, a little bit, but we didn't even get that. If you saw Shazam, you see half of Superman at the end of the film. But even getting him a little glimpse of him here and there, that's something that's going to leave wanting more. And I feel like the studio will, react to that. I feel like we will eventually get Man of Steel 2 if demanded. And again, I've stated a million times on this show how I don't understand how many other films are on, like how many other people, how many other DC films are coming out, and we still haven't gotten the sequel to Man of Steel, which deserves one,
See, I don't think it's in the cards because when DC first launched their universe, they're coming out with Man of Steel, and then they decided to rush it to get to their Avengers level. They threw in Batman vs Superman right away with Wonder Woman in the movie, and then you do Suicide Squad for no reason, and then here's Wonder Woman, Justice League, everyone's together, and it all kind of fell apart there when you should have been building up to it. And after it fell apart, they really decided to hit the reset button. Yeah, we got Aquaman, but Shazam wasn't really in the cards before. We got Shazam moved up earlier. We were supposed to have a Flash movie by now. That was supposed to be in 2018. We don't have a Flash movie. Cyborg was supposed to come out this year. That was never going to happen.
No, Cyborg. I would have been pissed if we would have gotten a solo Cyborg film before we got a Man of Steel sequel.
We got.
And I like Cyborg a lot in Justice League. He was one of my favorite things about that movie. I like that I don't know if it was you, but somebody said that he really didn't matter in the film. I thought he mattered a lot, No,
I didn't say that. No, he was actually very important in the film.
He was great. Yeah, very important. I like that. But you can tell a lot of his parts were edited. There was a lot. I was expecting to see Victor Stone in a middle of a football game because we got glimpses of that.
And in the trailer,
Cut.
it was all over in the trailer.
Completely cut, and I was waiting. I'm like, oh man, we're gonna see all that. He's gonna look over. His dad's not there because he's working on. We didn't get any of that.
No, we barely. They tried to make his father an important character in Justice League, and nobody cared. It didn't make sense. But ever since Justice League, they course corrected. So we got like a Birds of Prey, and all their movies, one after another, are actually starting to get good at this point. After Aquaman, in my opinion, you got Shazam, you got Joker, you got Birds of Prey. Three great DC movies in a row to me. So to me, they've really course corrected. We've got Wonder Woman 2 supposed to come out later this year. If this is the path they're going on, I'm not objective to it. It's just that I don't know if they're going to alter their course to go back to the old that they knew didn't work to give people a Man of Steel 2. You're already getting a Snyder cut. You're not going to get a Man of Steel 2, in my opinion.
Yeah, okay. So check this out. You mentioned all these films that we got after the fact that we still haven't gotten Man of Steel 2, but you mentioned Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey, Shazam, Aquaman, all that jazz, right? I feel, and I've again stated this before, excuse me, they were made because of the popularity of the character in the film. Meaning, again, they made Suicide Squad because I feel like Suicide Squad were in the plans. It wasn't a movie that were like, hey, well, let's just do Suicide Squad out of nowhere. I feel like they didn't want to introduce the Suicide Squad because of Guardians, right? However, what were the popular characters? You go back and you can see Harley. We got a Harley Quinn. Birds of Prey, I feel, is the most rushed film, and that was not in the cards whatsoever. And that happened because of the popularity of the Harley Quinn and Margot Robbie nailing that role, right? Yeah. So I feel, again, if the people speak up and people demand the Man of Steel 2, which there's scripts throwing around. There has to be at least 4 to 5 Man of Steel scripts out there where they'll green light one, where it's not like, okay, let's wait for the perfect script for it. I feel like there's already one there, and if people demand it enough, we'll get it.
There was rumors for a while that Matthew Vaughn was supposed to come in and direct it, and now today, I just heard about this just like maybe 10 minutes ago. I guess there's a rumor out there that after Warner Brothers brought in Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams is circling this project. If they're
circling a Man of Steel, direct Henry Cavill as now. We don't know if it's Man of Steel 2, or we don't know if he's directing another movie and Henry Cavill will be in it, or just I don't know what have you. But I saw that rumor. I couldn't read on it because I told you I was at work. But I saw that too, and that's what got my gears like really going. Like I'm like, if people want this, I feel like we will have this. It will happen.
See, that's the thing. Like, how many things are you going to get out of Warner Brothers? This fan base that's out there that's demanding stuff. You got your Snyder cut. There's a lot of people demanding now a David Ayer Suicide Squad cut that he
said. So
that
was the curveball. That's the curveball that I was going to throw at you because obviously we weren't going to really jump on the Ayer cut, but
it's out there.
It's out there. And he's saying it's not going to cost much to finish it. We don't know how true that is. But he's been gun-ho about that since Suicide Squad came out, saying that we did not see the film that he wanted to, that he intentionally that he made for us, for the audience. He said that we didn't even get a third of what he wanted, that it was obviously chopped up and made into what it was. So he's been very vocal about that, almost as much as Snyder has been about his cut, and let me tell you,
the Snyder cut got announced. You can go on Ayer's Twitter. That's all he's talking about. He's responding to everybody. He's commenting on posters and saying like, "Yeah, this would have been in the movie," and "Yeah, this is something that I had ideas for." And it's just.
And you want to know what's nuts? To be completely honest with you, it's the 2 cuts of the films that is needed. Those are the bottom 2 films for me. Spoiler alert. On my DC EU films. Those are for me bottom of the barrel. So why not see a better version of the films and show me what you got? And especially now with HBO Max launching and everybody, I don't know if you've seen, I don't have it personally. I did browse through the catalog. It has great things on there. It has a lot of
incredible service. There's not much original stuff, but
I signed up for the free trial. I just haven't sat down and watched anything. Dude, they got me with the Cartoon Network stuff with Space Ghost, man. They have Space Ghost on that. And I love that show. It's so fucking cynical. But I
I mean,
saw
but like for me,
the TCM catalog. That was awesome. That whatever's on
for me,
HBO
yeah.
right now,
That's
it's
absolutely for me. I go on DirecTV and just go to Turner Classic Movies and go through on the guide for ever long as they'll let me go and record movies over and over because I love classic film. And now that every single film that Turner Classic Movies has is on that service, I'm set. That's what I need. They got stuff from all the way from Charlie Chaplin to Casablanca to The
dude, they
Wizard.
had the Great Dictator on that, man. I was like, man,
Yeah.
they had a lot of Chaplin on that. So, what better way than do this on a streaming service? You don't have to worry about theater. It's the smartest thing to do, to be honest with you. And if what Air's really saying that it's not going to cost a lot to make this film, let's have at it. How many people shit on Suicide Squad? Wouldn't you want to redeem and then have everybody on your side? After that, like again, look what the ultimate cut of BVS did. It made the movie make sense. It made people actually enjoy that film. Now, is it perfect? No, but it's a hell of a lot better than the shit that we got in the theater, you know? So I feel like Warner Brothers
I
at
want to
this
talk
point,
to
if
you
they're investing,
about Henry Cavill himself.
go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say I want to talk to you about Henry Cavill himself. Like, how do you feel about him as? I know you kind of said it already that you love him in the role as the character. Do you think he's better than Christopher Reeve? Because to me, my thing is not with Henry Cavill. I really like. I think he's a great in the role. I'm not a big Superman fan, honestly. I've always kind of looked at him as the stereotype of what people think of when they think of superheroes. The guy who's got really no
Everything.
weakness. He's the perfect. He looks great. He's got untouchable, unbreakable, and I like the more complex characters. To me, Superman hasn't ever been very complex until Snyder really did some stuff with him. They showed his weaknesses.
And that's what I like. The universe that we have him in. I've never been a big Supes fan. I have a Superman tattoo, actually, right?
Oh, wow.
But I got that for my son because I always called him my little Superman, right? Okay. And if you see, it's a puzzle piece, and that represents the autism.
Yeah.
So this tattoo means the world to me, right? Mm-hmm. But everyone tells me, they're like, oh, but you're not. When I got it, they're like, you're not even a big Superman fan. I'm a fan of the character, but I'm a bigger fan of what Snyder did with him because he turned him more. And he's not from this planet, but human. You know, like he, obviously the end of Man of Steel is so controversial, and that's one of my favorite things about that movie was what he had to do. He had to kill literally the last Kryptonian, right?
Yeah,
well, we're not getting into the Supergirl stuff and all that. You get me? But I felt like that decision, meaning what Superman stood for, had to be done because there was a kid involved about to get killed. Mm-hmm. So the Reeves version of it's crazy because I do like Christopher Reeves a lot, and I get shit for this all the time. But Henry Cavill for me is my Superman. And it's not a shot to Reeve. I love the original, the first two films at least. I love Superman 1 and 2, the Richard Donner films. I really do love those films, but I'm an action, and I like dark. And I've told you this a million times. I like when the films get dark. And I felt like Man of Steel was that. Without getting too crazy, it wasn't too dark, but it was still dark. And everything about Cavill, I feel like Cavill looks like the cartoon version of Superman,
He does. But now I kind of want to talk about, because this Man of Steel news, not Man of Steel news, but Superman news, is about a cameo. So where's this cameo going to come? If you look at DC's upcoming slate, Suicide Squad, James Gunn's Suicide Squad, and Wonder Woman 1984 already wrapped filming. So they're out of the picture. There's really no plans apparently for the Batman to have any really connection to this universe. So that's out. So that leaves Aquaman 2, Shazam 2, and Black Adam. Those are your three really options right there. To me, it's easy. It's Shazam. Yeah, absolutely Shazam. You put him in the first movie. I would love to see that because Shazam, on my rankings, it's right there with Wonder Woman. I don't know which one's my best. I think I put Shazam at 1 because that movie's just such a blast.
It's great. It's great, and it has a great replay value. Like you can rewatch that movie and have a great time every time you saw it. That movie gets better for me every time that I do watch it. I
And
really,
it's
really love
really
that film.
how a kid would act if he got superpowers, and it's such a fascinating look at that. So if you put that dynamic with like a superhero who's not experienced with a superhero who's very experienced in Superman, that's gonna be a lot of fun. So I don't know if it'd be a cameo. It'd probably be like a Tony Stark in the Spider-Man films. I could see that kind of role for Superman in a Shazam film. So that could be fun. And then who knows? Maybe it leads to bigger things. But to me, yeah, it's Shazam. I don't really see Aquaman 2. I don't see Aquaman 2 happening for a little bit because it seemed like James Wan's talking about it a lot. You have the Amber Heard situation. I'm not really sure we're getting that. And then Black Adam. Black Adam could work too. I honestly think it,
I was gonna say Black Adam could work, to be
yeah.
completely honest with you, but I don't think they'll put Shazam versus Shazam and Superman versus Black Adam. I don't think that's gonna happen. Like two against one. I don't think that's gonna happen.
And you
It's
put
not,
Superman in a Black Adam movie. What's the point of having a Black Adam movie? Just give me a Superman movie with Black Adam as the villain, and
that's
that's what people
what
are
I
going to.
mean. Exactly. I think the best bet will probably be Shazam, and when they talk cameo, it'll probably be a tease right at the end where they'll probably tease Black Adam, they'll tease Superman, the whole nine, and then they see that would just lead up to him being on Shazam more than anything. I mean, Shazam on Black Adam more than anything. So I don't even know. I don't even know where they would go. To be completely honest with you, I'm telling you, man. I feel like it's gonna end up being a Man of Steel 2. Hopefully, that's my wishful thinking, at least.
We'll see. I mean, a lot of people have been calling it for a long time. And that script, yeah, like you said, that script's probably out there somewhere. If J.J. Abrams wants to do it, J.J. Abrams can do whatever he wants. So does he want to make a Superman movie? We'll see. But let's move on from there. Today's really a sports day, and we're going to talk a lot of sporting things going on. And our first thing is The Last Dance, which was the Michael Jordan documentary that's on ESPN that took up the conversation for a month and a half. ESPN moved up this documentary to went from June, or it was like either June or July to April when this pandemic hit. So it became this big thing that people were tuning into every Sunday night to watch. And it's really so fascinating to me. I don't know what stood out to you, but it's fascinating to me that Michael Jordan's being so vulnerable, talking about his past. Now, I'm not going to say it's the best documentary.
I loved it. I had a blast watching it
too. But
it's very entertaining.
Looking back, man, I know more about his bodyguards than I do about his family. I mean,
well, I feel like this should have been called The Last Dance. It should have been called I Took It Personal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything he's like, I took it personal. And I dropped 64 on him.
That's all I needed. That's it. He says that so many times. Like,
all I needed. Yeah.
So I don't know what was your what was the one thing that stood out to you the most out of what story or run or episode, what stood out to you?
Honestly, just everything as a whole, man. How, to be completely honest with you, I want to say he was called the GOAT for a reason, and that's one thing that you can't take that away from that man, playing who he played. Like, I know a lot, and this is gonna be the big comparison with LeBron. I'm sorry, buddy of mine, he's texting. The link, you sent it?
Yeah, I sent the link to him.
All right, cool. When they were saying LeBron, the comparisons are going to be nonstop. And I know, obviously, talking about The Last Dance, we were going to have to drop LeBron's name here. A lot of people, I even feel like one of the episodes that I loved the most, honestly, was the Kobe episode, when they mentioned Kobe and all that. And how he saw him as a big brother and a mentor and all that, which we all know that. But
Kobe was Jordan. Kobe was another version of Michael Jordan. Absolutely. Yeah. Everything he does. There's an interview out there with Jordan saying that nobody in NBA today could beat Jordan except for Kobe because Kobe steals all his moves. So Kobe just he had the mentality that Jordan had, and that's what all these comparisons came from.
One of the things that I love that Kobe said on the documentary was be like, oh, all my fans and all the fans that I have and everything, they were like, oh, you can take Jordan one-on-one. He's like, no, man, I learned my stuff from him. You get Kobe because of Jordan, because I looked up to this man, and it's for me, that was one of the greatest compliments you can get, that another amazing player, you're the reason why he plays the way that he busts his ass the way that he did because of you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's such a go ahead.
Yeah, well, something else that stood out to me. I think one of my favorite episodes was either the third. I think it was the third episode where it was the Dennis Rodman and the Detroit Pistons stuff. Especially the Detroit Pistons, because seeing that the huge obstacle that Jordan had to get over to finally become the winner that he's supposed to be, and how rough and tough those Pistons were. Like they were, like in this decade of basketball, they're like the Boston Celtics that LeBron had to overcome in order to finally win his championship with the Heat, you know, or the Boston Celtics that Kobe had to overcome to win his championships by himself, the Lakers. So you could see how deep-seated that rivalry became. You know, Isaiah Thomas wasn't even invited to be on the Dream Team, and Jordan says in his interview that he didn't argue. He didn't argue or say that if Isaiah Thomas is on the team, then I'm not going to be on the Dream Team. If Isaiah Thomas is on the team, then I'm not going to be on the team. He said that in the documentary. Then an interview comes out just a couple days ago saying that it leaked out that Jordan saying if Isaiah Thomas is on the team, then I'm not going to be on the team. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, how much of this documentary is actually true? Another fascinating thing to me is the Nike story. I don't know if you caught this in the Nike doc and the part. I think it was like episode 5 or 6 when Jordan's looking for a brand to sign with, and everyone, like Magic Johnson, Larry Bird are on Converse at the time, and Converse is number one.
He wanted it. Jordan wanted Adidas, and then he Nike is the one that actually gave him a number, and he did not want to even go to that meeting. He said that he was like, I don't want to be here. And his dad was the one that was like, this is the deal of a lifetime. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, you got to take it. And well, listen, well, think about it. If Jordan goes with Adidas, does Nike ever become as big as Nike is? To me, Jordan made Nike and Nike made Jordan. It was like a symbiotic thing where if Jordan would have gone to Converse, he kind of would have gotten buried. But Nike and Jordan built each other up. But what if Jordan went to Adidas? Would Nike be as big as it is? It's just such a fascinating thing to think about. I'm gonna bring in your buddy here.
All right,
Marco, what's going on, man?
What's going on?
Yo. Good, man. Good. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, it's been a long night.
Actually, you can say what exactly did you say to me when I asked you if you saw The Last Dance last night? Can you say that? Repeat that for me.
That it's arguably probably the best sports documentary I've ever seen.
That's not what you said. So let me say.
Well, Jader, you want to introduce your buddy first?
All right, this is Marco. So no, this is a friend of mine. I mean, dude, how long have we been friends for, dude?
Oh man,
it's been a long time. Over 10 years easily, man. One of the greatest guys that I know, man. We became fathers at the exact same time. Actually, I never forget that call.
Water in Detroit, apparently.
Yeah. We went. Actually, I posted that picture today. Funny enough, that we went to an Eminem concert in Detroit. We got to see Eminem and Jay-Z live, front row, nobody in front of us. It was one of the greatest shows we've ever been to. And it was just a bunch of us guys, you know, it was a boys trip. It was amazing. We came back from Detroit, and out of the 5 guys, 4 became dads.
Yeah.
In less than a year.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So no, it's a kind of a nutty water over there, I guess. And no pun intended on the nut. But what was I gonna say? So I asked him yesterday, you know, I'm like, hey dude, you know, because we're kind of talking about starting a podcast ourselves. And I asked him, I'm like, dude, have you seen Field of Dreams? He's like, who hasn't seen Field of Dreams? I'm like, I actually haven't. I'm gonna see it tonight. But I asked him if he saw I'm like, did you see the Last Dance Jordan documentary? And he goes, dude, I bought like 4 pairs of Jordans as soon as the documentary.
That's right.
Yeah. So he said that. I was like, you know what? I'm going to have you on the show tomorrow because I know your passion for sports. If you want to give a little background on yourself before we continue, go ahead. I know you play some ball and all that. So floor's yours, man.
Yeah, man. So I've played sports my entire life. I think got really into baseball. That was the one thing that really connected me to sports overall. Just kind of like father and son kind of connection. And I think that's why the Field of Dreams hits home. So I'll get into that. But I played through high school ball, ended up going into college baseball. both in Nebraska and Arizona. So I got the opportunity to play there, and then I ended up actually playing in Dominican Republic for a couple of years, and got to see what that was like, and that was kind of culture shock to kind of go into what I'm used to in the States to then having to live in a room probably no bigger than a small kitchen with about 6 other ball players. So that was my experience with that. I mean, list goes on, but baseball was definitely something that I fell in love with, and took it as far as I could take it. So, yep.
There you go.
All right. So you saw The Last Dance. Are you a Jordan fan?
I am.
You're a Jordan fan? Okay. What's your basketball team? Like, who do you root for?
I root for the Heat. Currently for the Heat.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I'm not a fair weather fan in that sense, right? Like I've liked the Heat since Tim Hardaway.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
it's been a while. Before
right?
the championships were won, we were watching Heat games.
Yeah. So I've always been a Heat fan. It's funny because my parents, like I was born in New York, so everybody considers like my family's all Knicks fans. So grain in that sense, the Knicks Heat rivalry, that was always something that was, I mean, always evident. So, but definitely root for the Heat. Yep.
Okay. So when you're watching this documentary and you're seeing all the steps of Michael Jordan's life and where he is today, what stands out to you the most? Because I was just talking to Jader about the how he signed with Nike and how he was so close to signing with Adidas. And that would have just changed the course of history if Jordan signs with Adidas. Does Nike even become what Nike is today? I mean, heck, you're wearing a Nike shirt right now. Does it become as big of a global brand as it is if Jordan doesn't sign with Nike? I thought that was super fascinating to look at. And then I was just talking about the Detroit Pistons stuff, how that obstacle that Jordan had to climb over to get there really made him the winner he is today. But what stands out to you when you're watching this documentary?
Believe it or not, I think some of the stuff that obviously everything that Jordan went throughout that time. And I think what stood out to me, believe it or not, was how Phil Jackson, like the coach, handled all these personalities. His leadership style was incredible.
He's the GOAT.
He's amazing. He's amazing.
We used to shit on him, remember, when we were going for the Celtics.
That's why.
We were shitting on the Celtics because we would watch when the Lakers were like how many series did we actually watch together, dude?
We would all group up in one house. We wouldn't even go to a bar or anything like that. We just group up in the house and we would just watch the games. And I hated Phil Jackson. Like I didn't appreciate him for what he did. I saw him as a coach that was just like this cocky, like I got all these rings and I got to coach Jordan and now I get to coach Kobe and all this stuff. But his mentality towards how he approached his players was something that I appreciated so much. Like the idea that you had Dennis Rodman, the idea that you had Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, all these different personalities, and the way you handle that, it's not easy. And just the Zen master effect is evident. Like it was just all throughout his entire presence on that team. It was just evident.
It's what held the team together. I'm a huge Lakers fan, and I've been watching them since I think it was like 2008. And I was, got to see the Kobe years of Phil Jackson holding that team together. And then you look back at it, what that team had. They had Metal World Peace and Lamar Odom and Andrew Bynum, like these guys who are also very toxic too. So to see how Phil Jackson's able to control these personalities, it's a respect factor. Because I think he won 2 championships as a player. Then you go and win 6 with the Bulls, and you win 5 with the Lakers, and it's like, geez, man, this guy is he's on another level as far, like he's like a basketball royalty almost. When people
he is. 13 rings ain't no joke, man.
It's
13 rings. But one of my favorite things, and I'm glad that we're talking about Phil, literally was the first championship, right? And yeah, true.
Steve's a Knicks fan.
Yeah. Steve is a Knicks fan. That's an executive. But one of my favorite things was when Jordan was basically, didn't want to pass the ball, didn't believe in anybody else during crunch time, right? And Phil was like, "Who's open?" during the first, and he goes, "Paxton's open." Yeah. They shoot the ball to him. He makes the points, and Jordan kind of, I feel like, takes a
breather,
sigh of relief.
Yeah.
They win the championship. So you win when he wins the first championship. He's hugging, he's crying, the whole thing. Phil Jackson goes up to him and he goes, "You did it the right way." That stood out to me like nothing else, because
he wouldn't have understood that appreciation.
Exactly.
Appreciation had it not been for the struggles that you had mentioned earlier with the Pistons. right? Like he had gone through all of that struggle, realizing I got to score 45 points. I can score 50 points and I'm still not going to beat these guys. I'm not going to do it all by myself. So have somebody like, and it's not anything, not to take anything from Doug Collins, because Doug Collins did what he did because he had what he had. But kind of bigger picture. And I think it's to your point where he's like, hey, look, you got Paxton open. You did it the right way. That's the way you're going to win games. So,
yeah. And then you see it later on with when Jordan leaves the team, just like Scottie Pippen also becoming. I think this is funny to talk about because Scottie's not happy with the way he was portrayed in this.
Yeah, so I just read that. I read about that yesterday because I didn't want to read anything of this documentary until I finished it. So I was watching, and I didn't watch it on Sunday. I literally binged it in 2 days. And I was talking to one of my coworkers, a big basketball fan, and he was telling me, he's like, you're liking that? I'm like, dude, I'm loving this documentary. And he goes, did you see how pissed off Scottie Pippen is? And I was like, no, I had no idea. And then he's like, look it up. And it wasn't him only.
Horace Grant.
Grant is another one that was pissed off. And it was somebody else that's completely upset because of he said it was disrespectful what Michael Jordan said about him. I forgot who it was. But yeah, Pippen doesn't like the fact. Huh? No, it was somebody else.
It was Horace Grant.
It was somebody else other than Horace Grant. It was 3 players that are upset.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 3 players. But yeah, I mean, what do you feel about that? You know, like they're kind of stating facts. Like I know it looks bad to be completely honest with you, but I mean, it did happen. You know, when it came to crunch time that they were going to give the ball to Kukoc, it's not made up shit. You know, it's not that he said, oh no, I wanted to jump in and then they told me to stay. No, you said you didn't want to play and he disappointed the team. You know, that happened. You know, the migraine thing, I understood, but it happened. You did it. You know, him and his back. I don't know if I can do this anymore. Stepping out, you know, during the series with Utah.
He can be mad all he wants. He did it to himself. These events happened. They didn't make this stuff up. Like the last season, his contract situation. Yeah, it sucks the contract you have, but you put yourself in that hole. The owner, what was his name? Jerry Reinsdorf. You told him at the time, like, this is not a good contract for you, but he took a 6-year, $18 million deal at that time, and he was feeling the effects of it within the second year. So getting that surgery going into the last year, very late into the summer, you chose to do that. You could have done that at the beginning.
Yeah, and he did that to try to piss off Chicago because he wanted to trade.
Yeah, you know? And then you walk in and, well, actually, something else we should talk about is Jerry Krause. Is what Jerry Krause did. Like, how do you look back at him? Because he did build this team and win these 6 championships with that team, but you also destroyed it too. That's how I look at it in a way, is if you had never told Phil, you go 82-0, it doesn't matter, this is your last year, maybe they win 2 more championships after this. Who knows?
Well, it's crazy. Towards the end of that documentary, like, obviously the cat was out of the bag. Jordan was like, look, I would have gone. You signed me for another year. I'm guaranteeing, like, Pippen would have signed. Pippen, he was like, oh, well, Pippen, you might have had to have done some convincing. But everybody else, like, you would have gotten them to sign 1-year contracts to then see where you would take it, right?
Yeah.
And think about the matchups that you would have had, right? Like, think about 99, if I'm not –
the Spurs.
Thinking the Spurs.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, the Spurs.
Dynasty, then you start getting into that realm.
Yeah.
Those are some interesting matchups, right? Like that's a fan, like you're starting to think about what could have happened in that moment. You could have essentially had a passing of the torch between Jordan and Kobe right then and there.
Yes.
Right.
And we missed out on that. We ended up getting the Washington Wizards Michael Jordan years instead, which is kind of forgotten about. And that's
going to be the Last Dance Part 2, season 2.
Well, because his legacy. His great legacy kind of stops at the end of the Last Dance, because now you have the Wizard stuff, and then you have his executive job as the Charlotte Hornets owner.
Yeah.
It's the worst team in basketball right now. They're doing a terrible job over there. Can you name a player? I mean, we're all sports fans, but how many players can you really name on the Charlotte Hornets right now? It's Terry Rozier. It's Cody Zeller. I don't know, Kid Gilchrist.
2 more than I would have said.
Yeah, dude.
Exactly. Like, that team's not good. So he hasn't done a great job post his Chicago Bulls years. which is something they really didn't touch on. So, any last thoughts from you guys on The Last Dance? Other things you want to talk about?
Do you think he would have, if he wouldn't have left, they would have won that year? Because they got close. I think honestly, Jordan, the year he left, they could have won had he stayed. Obviously, it was hard for him. One thing, and I'm getting off rails, right? I promise you, I'll be right back. But I did not know about Steve Kerr's father. That wasn't that was. I had no idea about that, and that was crazy. How amongst themselves they didn't even talk about that. And obviously, knowing that his father got murdered and Jordan's father got murdered, that was bizarre to me. That that didn't happen. However, let's go back. So I'm thinking Jordan doesn't leave because they got pretty goddamn close, you know. Without Jordan, I think had he been there, they could have gotten. And then had they extended that 1-year contract, like he said at the end of everything, this man could have probably had 8 rings. They probably could have been just the rulers of the '90s, you know. Like would have. Go on.
I think. Yes,
you got cut off completely. I couldn't hear what you said at the beginning. Go ahead.
Like that moment where they got pretty close without him. There's a couple ways to kind of look at it, right? Like that is a grind, right? If you think about going through an 82-game season and going into the playoffs, as a player, you are mentally and physically exhausted.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. That's why I salute him that he did 2 3-peats, bro. That is, you know, fuck.
Right.
Well, that's where you salute LeBron too. What LeBron's doing right now is going to those finals every single year. That's a grind. That's such a hard thing to do, which I respect him for. Yeah, he's got a losing record in it, but boy, it's been a mountain hill climb to get to where he is today. So
how many other players can say that they've been that many times in the finals? Yeah, you don't close, and I understand people are only going to remember the winners.
It's something that you do have to hold against him. It honestly is, like, especially the first year with the Dallas Mavericks. You know, that's completely on him. You let that go. That should have been.
He did not show up on the fourth quarter. I remember that being the longest joke ever because that guy will dominate quarters 1, 2, and 3, and
just gone.
He was missing.
And that. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. You know what I think about too, in the sense of, you know how we. Sorry, my daughter's knocking on the door. You know how we're very quick as sports fans in general, right? To look at a team, and as they go winning, we're like fans revolt. Like they're just like, oh, I don't want to see these guys win anymore, right? So let's say that Jordan doesn't leave, stays, and they win out, right? I think it says more, in my opinion, his legacy and his aura. The fact that he left, they didn't quite do it, and then he comes back and they do it. Like they now he comes back and they win 3 more, right? Like I think it's almost. Though we would have wanted to see that happen and run straight through all that, I think it just speaks more to like his value and who he was and how like what he was to that organization, to basketball, that he was able to leave, and then he came back and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna win 3 more. Like that's it, we're gonna make this happen. I think it's just 2 different perspectives on how to look at it, because maybe you end up hating the Bulls for running the table as much as they did.
I remember growing up, dude. I saw the back-to-back finals with Utah, and I obviously am a huge Michael Jordan fan because of Space Jam. So I'm like, this guy's the GOAT. He played with Bugs Bunny, right? So I remember all my older cousins shitting on Michael Jordan, dude, shitting on him. F that, he saw like wanting.
That's what Tom Brady gets. That's what Tom Brady.
And I was gonna mention just that. God damn it, Kyle. This is why.
Listen, we have the same mind.
This is why. And I was gonna say that. And it's the same thing with Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. You know, me being one of the biggest Brady shit talkers ever. In fact, I respect the man more now, and I root for him more now. Like the last, I want to say 3 years or 4 years, I've been rooting for the man. I was even rooting for him when he was, because I hate the Eagles. So when the Eagles beat him, I was pissed because I wanted the Giants to have that and keep that, But I find myself rooting for him so much more now, because you're like, you got to give respect when credit's due, and you respect the man. That guy is and it's Phil Jackson, and it's just like Belichick and Brady. It's Phil Jackson and Jordan. You know, that's who that's the basketball world, the football world, that's what it is.
Right.
That's the combo, man. And like I'm excited to see what Brady does in Tampa. To be completely honest with you, I want to see what he does without Belichick.
It's gonna be fun.
If we ever get sports,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Please don't do that. I hope.
Yeah, I know. But bro, this documentary, I know Kyle, you said it wasn't the greatest. I really enjoyed the hell out of it, man. I had a lot of fun, because a lot of people, were Horace Grant saying that a lot of it is bullshit. He goes, yeah, it's entertaining, but it's bullshit. I mean, the power of editing, right? It is what it is. I don't feel like what they said was bullshit. I felt like maybe the editing was what they were upset about, because I don't feel like there was any lies.
Well, I told you what my thing was, is we didn't really get into Jordan's life. Like I told you, we know more about his bodyguards than we do about his family. His wife never showed up in this documentary at all.
His kids in the very last episode.
Yeah, the kids had one line in it. I just want to point out one more thing. This is the funniest part of the entire documentary to me, was they were talking. He had a game against the Pacers, and Ron Harper wants to guard Jordan for the last shot. He's like, I got him. I can do this. And they're like, the coach is like, nah, I'm going to put this guy in him. And Ron Harper delivers the line of the entire documentary saying, yeah, okay, whatever. Fuck this bullshit. And he never comes back on for the entire documentary, but it's always going to be remembered to me. It's a really good documentary. I had a great time with it. Next year, we're going to be getting a Tom Brady documentary in 9 parts now, because they're going to capitalize on everyone who's been a big winner in sports. So we'll see what happens. But let's move on, guys. Let's get to our.
One of the things that you mentioned, the Bad Boy Pistons, bro, that honestly was probably one of my favorite things, because you can see that struggle with Jordan, man. Just a quick little shout out there, bro. It was. They were bad, man. Like, they were bad, bro.
They didn't care. They didn't care.
No, what was it? The Jordan rule?
Rule. He's up in man.
He's on the ground.
Yeah, get him on the ground.
It's insane. All right, now you can.
So let's move on to another sports topic. So our topic for this week was sports films, and Jader and I came up with 6 of them. We had some fun ones on there, like I put on again. Jader put on.
Warrior.
You had Warrior. I had Draft Day.
I wanted to review it. No one. How many votes did that get? By the way, I don't think even
Warrior came in second to last place, from what I remember.
Warrior's legit, man. I'm sorry.
That's another one that we're gonna have to review one day, because I will need to talk about that film.
Moneyball was another one that was on there. I was really pulling for Moneyball, because I wanted to watch it again. Yeah.
Who did I tell you was gonna win though?
Listen, every one of your picks has won, I think, every single week. So
every week. I always pick a film. I'm like, this is the one that's gonna win. I know our audience, bro.
It's the classic one, and we got Field of Dreams. Field of Dreams ended up being the film that won our poll. And Jader and I were just talking before this. Neither of us have ever seen this film. This is our first time. I just finished it about an hour and a half ago. I gotta say, it's a really touching film. It's not like the best sports film per se, but it's not really about sports. It's, to me, the theme about this film was respecting the past and honoring the past, where you came from, your roots, and kind of holding on to that, because the future is always calling Kevin Costner in this film. Sell your farm. You're going to make more money off of it. You got to move on. And Costner's holding on to the past. So that's what sticks out to me. But Jader, this was your first time watching it too. What stood out for you? What did you pick up on?
To be completely honest with you, I started this movie really late last night. I want to say like a little past midnight is when I started watching the film. So in the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bored. I thought this was an all-out sports film. Like, I was gonna watch some shit go down, but it wasn't exactly what you said. So I saw about, I don't want to say like 45 minutes to maybe an hour in, maybe. I was like, I'll continue this later. I had to see both episodes of The Last Dance today and the ending of Field of Dreams, and I worked today, but I got it done. Thank God we were slow at work, because I was in the back watching the documentary. But where was I going? But I really loved how much the film picks up in the second half, at least for me. to the point where I was like, this is a great film. Really good film. I don't want to say great. Really good film. It's one of those that I definitely want to revisit to see if I pick up more things on it. But I really enjoyed. I feel like everybody was pretty much on their game. There was like maybe a scene or two where I was like, I can deal without this. I didn't like the. I felt like it was a to throw a curveball into the plot, little curveballs here and there. Which the scene for me that sticks out the most is when the brother comes back. After he comes back to Iowa and he's like, "You got to sell your thing," and the little girl's choking on the hot dog. That whole thing.
That was weird. It was
yeah,
weird.
I was like, that was a little weird. And then the whole book club scene, whatever, But other than that, James Earl Jones for me killed it. Ray Liotta, man, let me tell you, Ray Liotta fucking crushed. I felt like, because you're watching a movie about ghosts or spirits or what have you. And, he just played and Ray Liotta being, I think this came out after he had already done.
Before.
No?
This was before. This was 1989, and Goodfellas was 91.
Oh, I could have sworn this was like a 91, 92 film.
No, this was 89, yeah.
Holy shit. Okay. Well, imagine. So he did that, and then he did Goodfellas literally the next year. So for me, I wasn't used to seeing Liotta, and he just played a very cool, very, he was a prick when he needed to be a prick, but very, very just cool character, and I really liked him a lot, man. So you guys want to jump in here?
I think some of the stuff that stood out to me in this movie, and being a baseball fan, I'd probably watched this movie a million times. But again, it's not just about the baseball. I think what stands out to me, the word that I'm looking for is redemption, because all throughout this movie, you see different individuals that are trying to get through that. So like you have Terrence Mann, right, who is played by James Earl Jones, and his redemption piece is really his view of, or how the public views him, which is why you have the book scene, right, because she's fighting for that. There's a lot of that playing out. And then you have the redemption piece between Ray and his father, and how that plays out, right? So, but he doesn't know that. He doesn't know how that's going to turn out until the end, right? Like you don't see that piece play out until, hey, those voices start to make sense. And you also got Ray Liotta's character, Shoeless Joe Jackson, who is now coming into his own, kind of accepting the afterlife. And the thing is, like, I spoke to Jader about this yesterday. So a lot of the stuff that people don't realize about Shoeless Joe Jackson is that in 1919 he was asked to throw the World Series, and he was given this opportunity to go ahead, throw it, lose the World Series on purpose, gain some capital for it, right? Gamble, and he actually ended up batting the highest batting average in the entire series. He ended up hitting the most home runs in the series.
Mm-hmm.
It was as if he didn't even commit an error that entire series. So it was almost as if he was just like feeling guilty about the fact that he was doing it. And he said, I'm just going to play balls to the wall anyways. So a lot of that, you don't know, like you don't need to know that to watch this movie, but.
Well, they explain it to you right at the beginning. How actually, he's kind of explained to his daughter, which is explained
to his daughter when he's doing the field, yeah.
Right. So then it's kind of like, all right, I get an opportunity to come in and play on this field that you've built to kind of make up for the sins in a sense that I've done, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like faith and redemption and a lot of that going on. And then what ties the knot is, for me, at least from the perspective of what I've been through with my father and baseball and how that correlates, it does hit home. It does hit home in that sense, right? You get the opportunity to throw a baseball with your dad after you fight with him, and then like he didn't even know. Like he's looking at this guy like, oh my God, like I realize now who this is. And he calls him dad. The guy doesn't even know. So it's a good movie, good family movie in that sense, right? Like it brings everything together. That's how I felt about it.
Well, that was my main thing, was the ending, dude. I saw it coming. I didn't know when it was coming. I didn't know that his dad was going to be on the field. I thought his dad was going to come out of the cornfield and be like, I'm here. Like, that's how I thought it was going to go down. I didn't know he was like, I knew he played baseball, which was stupid that I didn't pick it up. But I did see that ending coming, and it still hit me, even though I was expecting it, bro. I had like a knot right here at the end, and I was like, damn, this sucked. Because it doesn't, you don't have to lose a fact. Just anyone that you want to talk to have that ability to have that moment one more time, that hit home It really, really did hit home. I have a little bit of theory, but I want to hear obviously Kyle's thoughts. Let's go.
Well, it took me a little bit to get on board with what this movie was, because he hears a voice and he just goes and builds a baseball field. Which, by the way, the editing doesn't work for me with that, because it looks like he built the baseball field in one day entirely.
Okay. Super fast. Yeah, I said the same thing. I'm like, how much time has passed?
And it looks perfect.
Yeah, it's like you got the lights and everything too. Just you spent all your save once in the bank.
No wonder you're bankrupt, dude.
I know, you had those sitting in the shed or something. But and then all of a sudden, Ray Liotta shows up, which it reminded me of the movie Us, when Karen shows up and she goes, "Daddy, there's a man outside." And remember in the movie Us, with the little boy, he's like, "There's a family in our driveway." And then you see him standing out there, like, this is weird. Why is there people just showing up to his baseball field? They're just, now they're ghosts and they're disappearing. And I wasn't on board with what was happening yet. But then once you kind of accept that this isn't a realistic movie, this is a kind of a fantasy.
It's a fantasy, yeah.
Yeah. Then once you accept that and lock in on that, then you can really enjoy this film. And like you brought up James Earl Jones. I thought James Earl Jones was the MVP of this film.
He was great. Absolutely.
He is
great.
Fantastic as this writer. The scene where Costner first meets him inside of his apartment is probably one of my favorite scenes in the film. Just Costner said, or not Costner, or James Earl Jones is telling him that he's from the '60s and starts trying to spray him out of the apartment. It's a lot of fun. So I was on board with this movie. I kind of want to get to some questions to you guys. What's the most rewatchable scene for you? What's the scene that, if you had to go back and only watch one scene in this film, what would it be? Let's start with you, Marco. You've seen this movie more than us.
Yeah.
I gotta say when Moonlight Graham crosses over,
Okay.
just because most guys would kill for, like, those that play baseball, right? Like whatever, or any sport. Most guys would kill for one at bat or a minute on the court or whatever that looks like. And to kind of tell yourself that you have a bigger purpose than just playing the game that you love the most,
Mm-hmm.
accepting that is something that even now, like, granted, I'm not saying that I could have been a major leaguer at all, but to accept when you have to hang up your cleats because you have a bigger purpose, like, that is a hard thing for an athlete to go through. And I think that's what stood out to me, because I've had a moment like that, right? Like, when I had kids, it was like, that's it. Like, I can't chase a dream anymore, right? I can't go playing in these Sunday leagues all the time and hoping I get looked at, whatever that looks like, right?
Yeah.
And I think him crossing over, it was him accepting that. It was like, I can't play baseball for the rest of my life. I got to be a doctor, and this is what I want to do, because it allows me to help people in a different way. So that's powerful.
I'm gonna go the opposite direction, because I was gonna say the opposite. I know you said the MVP was James Earl Jones, and I agree with you 100%. But Burt Lancaster was right behind him, in my opinion. Every scene that he was in was fantastic.
And he only shows up halfway through the film. It's like 2 scenes.
And he's in 2 scenes, and that, for me, that's what I mean. He was impactful as hell, because I loved him. I loved Moonlight Graham as the character, but it was for me when Shoeless Joe Jackson looks at him, he goes, "You're Moonlight Graham, well, suit up." And he's there, and he winks at the guy. And, that whole scene for me was so powerful, dude. It was so great. Transitioning to what he had to do and what he let go. And it's exactly what you said. I've never played a lot of sports. I played sports. The last time I played any sports was like high school, right? But, I can only imagine as an athlete to see, even though, and it's kind of crazy, because I know what the scene meant, but I kind of felt like it was stupid, because if the girl's choking on a goddamn hot dog, you don't think that Kevin Costner has, like, me as a parent, I'm like, dude, just smack her in the back and that's it. Let the man play. You don't need a doctor for that. But I understood the purpose of the scene. That was, I'm telling you, 3 scenes that bothered me, and it was the book, which we know every scene has the purpose. I just felt like stupid. But that thing in the little girl choking, all that stuff, I was like, dude, 3 packs. The guy hit her twice and the hot dog was out, But I knew why it had to be done. But I like everything with Moonlight Graham, from the hitchhiking, when he says his name, the way they look at each other, and I'm like, even me, I was like, oh shit, look. you know, and then seeing him on the field with the player, him looking and
being
seeing,
in awe, like just
yeah,
wow.
exactly. And even as a fan of the sport, like you said, like you don't have to be an athlete, but if they tell you like, hey man, you know, you can play with the. We'll go back to the Last Dance. You can play a game with Jordan. You're not gonna get annihilated, but you can say that, hey, I got to play with Michael Jordan on the court. You
Mhm.
know, and that was the same for him. So that scene was great for me. Like that, from that to the you know, the acceptance of what he had to do, it was probably my favorite scene in the whole film.
I want to do a quick shout out to the scene where Kevin Costner's wife calls out the at the PTA meeting, calling out the woman for wanting to burn books. That was so funny, and just whenever she's just roasting her for being like a Nazi, that was great. I love whenever someone who's wrong gets completely destroyed by someone who's a lot smarter than them in any film. But my scene, to me, I don't know why this sticks out. It's when James Earl Jones and Kevin Costner are going back to James Earl Jones's house, and Costner's ready to just drop him off. And you clearly, I don't need you. You clearly aren't hearing what I'm hearing. Get out the car. And James Earl Jones is kind of just playing along. Costner does a complete U-turn to come back, and boom, there's James Earl Jones standing right in front of him. I love that moment because then he's like, "You got it too. I'm not crazy. You're figuring out this with me." And then they're like buddies for the rest of this film. I love that. Some quick fun facts about this film that I looked up. They actually built a baseball diamond in Iowa for this film, and the owners of that farm sell souvenirs and have people come in and play baseball games there all the time. So I think that's a lot of fun.
Yep.
This film was originally supposed to be called Shoeless. It was going to be about Shoeless Joe Jackson, which that would have been a terrible name because this film is not about Shoeless Joe Jackson at all. It's about it's about basically everyone in the film, really. It's not a singular person thing. So I think that's a good thing. The baseball park where they're playing at the Fenway Park, where that's Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are in the crowd there. They're actually extras in the crowd there. I did not know this at all. And then when Ben Affleck went to go work with the director again for Sum of All Fears, he said, "It's nice to be working with you again." And the director had no idea that he worked with Ben Affleck already.
That's hilarious.
I thought that was pretty fun. This was the last film of Burt Lancaster, which is, you know, this is a really good, like, touching thing. Like, you guys said how great he was. Bill Simmons on his podcast has an award called the Dion Waiters Award, where it's the best heat check performance. They come in, they fire off a couple scenes, they're great, and then they get out of there. That's Burt Lancaster in this film.
Yeah. Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. I'm telling you, like, he was in that film for so little, and he was one of the most impactful characters. I just loved everything about James Earl Jones, the speech at the end, the whole nine. That's what gave him that edge. And James Earl Jones is pretty much fantastic in anything that he's in. But Burt Lancaster being for the film, it's kind of like what we said last week with the Wolf of Wall Street. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? I don't know.
No, it was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago with McConaughey.
Yeah.
How he was in the movie for less than 10 minutes, and he was one of the MVPs of the film, you know. Yeah. And it goes with Burt Lancaster as well. I loved his character in this film. It's probably my favorite character. I just know that James Earl Jones brought it, you know.
Yeah, Major League Baseball has actually taken that field, and now I think they have if not exhibition games, I think they have one regular season game in Iowa on that field now.
Oh wow!
You can see just how much this movie means to the baseball community. It's beloved by not just regular fans, but sports fans too. And when sports fans hold on to a film, that's a special thing because a lot of the times they don't like sports films because they're not completely accurate to what the sport is. So to get sports fans on board with something is really something. I want to talk Oscars. This movie was nominated for Best Picture. It didn't win anything, but it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Writing, and it had one more. Best Writing and
music. I think it was music. Best Music was one of the awards. I remember that because I like the actual scene. Actually, the first time you see Shoeless Joe Jackson, thought that scene played out perfectly. How he's walking alone in the dark, but the music playing once the light turns on and he looks, like, I thought that was just beautifully shot. I loved that scene a lot. And the wife, I like the wife. Let me tell you about her. At first, she was kind of like, I don't know if she was bothering me because she was kind of like crazy. Yeah, she was like that. But I loved how on board she was a realistic character because she was really on board while actually being like, we are gonna go bankrupt, because there was that serious scene right before the scene that I just mentioned where Karen tells him there's a man on our yard. on our backyard or whatever.
Yeah.
But I love how the wife was kind of like, hey, like, I'm all for this, but what's the purpose of doing this? Because, you know, we're out, we're bankrupt right now. So I kind of at first didn't like her character, and I ended up really liking her character at the end of the film. At first I was like, I'm like, what is she trying to do? Like, I didn't know. It was something about the way that it was acted that I just didn't get it. And I thought this movie, I didn't know this movie was more of a fantasy. And that's another thing, Kyle, you kind of hit that nail on the head. I didn't know that, but once I accepted it, I was like all for it, you know? Yeah. Now, quick question before you get back. Do you think, and this is, and my theory, I proved myself wrong, but it makes sense. Did you think that Terrence Mann was dead?
So that's one of my unanswerable questions. That's the first thing I asked because I was watching it with my grandmother. It's the first thing I asked when this film was done. I'm like, well, what happened to James Earl Jones? Like, did he just? Kevin Costner asked him, "Hey, can you tell me all about write a?" He's like, "I'm going to write.
You're going to write about this, the whole nine." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to write. That's what I do. I'm a writer." Now, for me, it goes back to it. It makes perfect sense that he's dead, but there's two scenes that kind of like kill that for me, right? But everything else, so the scene, which this scene made me laugh when he's like, "What do you want?" And he goes on this spiel that he doesn't want to be dependent, he wants to be left alone. And then Kevin Costner's like, "No, what do you want? Like, do you want a hot dog or a beer or whatever?" And he's like, "Oh." So that scene, obviously people are seeing. And then the brother, when they first get back to the field and the brother's trying to make him sell the property, the brother shakes his hand. He goes, "Oh, who's this, Elvis?" And he's laughing. So he was seen. You get me? But everything else for me, it's like a whole Sixth Sense, Bruce Willis feel to it. Because even at the end, then I'm like, well, was he dead or did he die on the field? Like, because he never comes back. You don't know what the hell happened. You don't know where he goes. For me, I was like, oh, maybe he was brought there to die. But you know, it's just weird for me because you don't see anything else. But it really stuck to my head. I'm like, did he die or was he dead? But they never answer that. So I don't know how if you guys ever even, well, obviously Kyle did. I don't know if you ever did, Marco, on
I never, when I saw this movie, and as many times as I saw it, I never saw it as he died. Like, I always saw it as, okay, he needed to cross over. He was invited to cross over to kind of tell the story of what these players go through or what's on the other side, right?
Yeah.
Obviously you don't see him come back to tell it, but I never even thought of that. I never thought, okay, he was passing away. I looked at it more of like, this was his purpose. His purpose was to go ahead and tell the story of these individuals in some way, shape, or form. Because of the way.
I think like halfway through the scene, since he was able to see what was on the sign when they went to Fenway and all that, I didn't think that he was gonna die. Like, I got that at the end when they invited him, when Ray Liotta's like, "Can you come?" But I started guessing, and I'm like, is he dead? Is he one of these ghosts that he can't see? And then there's all the I don't know why. Like, for me, it was like an immediate reaction to me where I was just like, I think he's dead. You know?
I think I got it. He is dead. Because it's established in this film that just because other people are you don't have to see, like, someone can't be invisible to someone else, you know, that just because Costner can see him doesn't mean no one else can. You see that his family's able to see all the players, and the brothers eventually to see all the players, and all these people show up afterwards. So it's established that Kevin Costner's not the only one who can see dead people. But you really don't see James Earl Jones interact with a lot of people, like you said, the hot dog people, but also maybe they understand he's appearing to them because that's what needs to be done at this moment.
But there was no dialogue between them. They're just staring blankly, and that's another thing. The only person that really interacts besides the wife and Karen is the brother that didn't believe. You get me? He's the only one that shakes his hand, and that's when he goes, "Oh, he's this Elvis," and he's like there, and James Earl Jones laughs. That's it. Other than that, and I think there's one more other person, but at the same time, are they ghosts? I don't know. Like, my mind went like everywhere watching this, man.
It feels like he didn't let go. He wasn't accepted into heaven yet, because there's heaven and purgatory. Established in this film when the father asks, "Is this heaven?" And it's almost like Kevin Costner was able to grab him out of purgatory and bring him back to heaven, where Ray Liotta takes him in. Joe Jackson takes him in. I think that's the point they're trying to make. So if I had to decide, I would say that he is dead.
It's tough because, to your point, yeah, he shook the brother's hand, but the brother didn't see the people on the field until after everything that occurred. So what was the brother's purpose in actually seeing that soul or that spirit or whatever it was, right? So it can get dicey if you think about it, but I understand how you guys could see that, but I guess me growing up, I never made that correlation, right? Like as a kid, like maybe that just didn't click in my head. So when you ask that question, it's an interesting concept. It's interesting to really think about.
That's the only scene. The brother scene is the only thing that I feel like debunks my theory. But other than that, rewatch the film now, seeing this, and you're gonna get like a sick, like the first time you saw Sixth Sense, no one saw that twist coming. The second time you pick up on it, you not pick up on it, but you notice how there's no interaction really.
Well, even with like in The Last Jedi, when Luke Skywalker shows up at the end battle, but he's not actually there. The first time you're like, oh, that's a cool twist, but the second time you pick up on stuff that he wasn't actually there the entire time. You know, his feet moving on the ground. You don't see that the salt kicks up. So there's little hints. So it's one of those films that has those little things that make it fun to go back and rewatch. I want to get back to the Oscars real quick. This film lost to My Left Foot, Dead Poets Society, Born on the 4th of July, and Driving Miss Daisy was the film that won Best Picture this year. This, to me, is one of the ultimate snub years for other films, because 1989 was a really good year for film. I'm bringing it up here right now, but some of the other things that came out were Glory and The Abyss, 1989's Batman. You have The Little Mermaid, When Harry Met Sally, The Last Crusade, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Say Anything. And I think the biggest one to me that didn't get nominated was Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee's masterpiece.
Holy shit.
Didn't get nominated. So does Field of Dreams deserve that nomination it got? Keep in mind at the time, only 5 nominees could be in the Best Picture category. So
not over Do the Right Thing, which I saw recently, and that is a fantastic film.
Yes.
Last Crusade. I mean, we reviewed The Last Crusade last week. You know, coincidentally. But I had even more, it's a different different film, obviously, but I think The Last Crusade's even a superior film to this, and don't get me wrong.
Put in When Harry Met Sally over, actually, I would take out Born on the 4th of July, My Left Foot, and the one that won, Driving Miss Daisy, because that's one of the ones people look back at as a very problematic film for now to win Best Picture over something like Do the Right Thing. It was brought back up 2 years ago when Green Book beat Black Klansman at the Oscars. People were really frustrated about that because
another Spike Lee joint.
Yeah, he got screwed over twice. He really did. So, when you guys look at this, how do you feel about the nominees, and did Field of Dreams even deserve to be in there?
I was kind of shocked when I read that it did get nominated for an Oscar. It didn't feel like an Oscar film for me. To be. It's a good film. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I will be rewatching this again because, again, I kind of want to prove my theory more. Besides that one scene that debunks it, but I do want to see it again, and I want to see it obviously from the beginning. Like I said, in the first 40 minutes to an hour, I was kind of like, ugh, like it had a better ending for me, the better second half. But now that I know what I'm expecting, some movies get better the second time around once you know what you got yourself into, right?
Yeah.
So this is definitely a movie that I do want to revisit. But not once did I watch this film. I'm like, I wonder if this got nominated for an Oscar because it deserved to. Not once. And that's okay. How many movies that we love, didn't get nominated for don't get nominated for an Oscar, but I didn't get that feeling whatsoever. So yeah, I would probably take that. Born on the 4th of July is more Oscar baity. It's not that one I could see more. I'm not crazy about Oliver Stone. There's very few films of him that I really do like. I remember being bored out of my mind watching the Born on the 4th of July when I was growing up. Because I saw that movie very young. I saw that movie when I was like 8 or 9.
That was Tom
But,
Cruise going for his Oscar. That was
yeah.
his big swing, and then he kind of just like, you know what, I'm just gonna do whatever. And if I get the nomination, I get the nomination. Which you see with Jerry Maguire later on. But Marco, do you have any opinions on this Oscar conversation?
No, I'll be honest. Like, I can't familiarize myself with most of the movies that you guys have mentioned that were part of that list. But I will say I never got that feeling as if Field of Dreams should have been part of anything that involved an Oscar, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think if you looked at the list of names on, obviously the cast, right? It's easy to kind of infer that time to be like, okay, maybe it's the cast that maybe kind of carried that assumption of being on that list. But you guys know more than I do in that sense. But I never felt that. I never felt like this was an Oscar award winning picture. No.
If anything,
No, I feel like if anything, music is the one thing, because I told you that scene for me with Leota when he's on the field, like the music made that for me, so I can see how that nomination got in there, because that was the first thing I thought about.
Out of the 5 that got nominated, to me, this one has had the best legacy ever since. Like I said, Driving Miss Daisy, Born on the 4th of July, My Left Foot, and Dead Poets Society. I think this is the one that's really stuck in the public conscious, as evidenced by it winning our poll for the longest time. So I think that's more of a win itself than Driving Miss Daisy winning Best Picture. I got 2 more questions for you guys. Apex Mountain. This is a question I like to bring up every single week. Is anybody in this film is this anyone's Apex Mountain in this film? So the definition of that being, this was the best they were ever at in their careers. This was the height of their powers. Does that suit for anyone? Because to me, James Earl Jones, obviously not, because he's got his Darth Vader and Mufasa. It's not Ray Liotta, because Goodfellas is for him.
Yeah.
I think you can make a case for Phil Alden Robinson, the director.
Yeah, because I know he did Some About Fears. I think, did he write? Did he direct Sneakers? Because I saw 3 films that he did, right?
Sneakers. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it goes in that order: Field of Dreams, Sneakers, and Some About Fears. I wasn't too crazy about Some About Fears. So yeah, maybe the director's Apex Mountain. Actually, no, it is the director's Apex Mountain, because put anybody else that's in Field of Dreams. Nope.
Marco?
No, I don't think so. Although I know Kevin Costner in the baseball world, like, to a lot of the people that replay like those thoughts of like baseball movie and scenes and actors, like, he is talked about over and over again, because he's done Bull Durham, right? So he's been involved with baseball in that sense. So Bull
Love of the Game, yeah, he's done.
Like, he is.
To me, this is Costner. This is in the middle of Costner's Apex Mountain. I think his Apex Mountain is 87 to 93, where you get Bull Durham, and then you get The Untouchables, and then Bull Durham, and then you get Field of Dreams.
Bodyguard. And
then it ends with The Bodyguard, but in between there you have Dances with Wolves, which people don't look back at too fondly, but he won his Oscar there. That was his wins. Then The Bodyguard, and then after The Bodyguard, which was kind of like one of the biggest movies he's ever been in, he's gone into these supporting roles. He's Clark Kent's dad in the Man of Steel films. He's Molly's dad in Molly's Game, and all these.
Which he fucking crushes in that movie.
Right? Oh, absolutely.
He's so great in Molly's Game. But
one more Apex Mountain I'll throw out is baseball and films, the Major League Baseball and films, because I don't think the MLB's really achieved those heights in any other film. Maybe Moneyball. Moneyball might be the only one, but can you think of anything else?
Major League, right?
Major League. I was gonna say Major League, and you don't like it?
No, I love it. But
no, you. I meant you.
No, I just don't know if is it above, like, as far as popularity, the Field of Dreams.
The Natural. You have The Natural as well. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Natural, but
yeah, it's Robert Redford. Yeah.
The Natural is that's probably one of my favorite, if not the favorite, baseball movie.
That's usually the #1 baseball movie. If we would have done just baseball films, I guarantee you, Kyle, that The Natural probably would have won, or Bull Durham.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think this film would have still won.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I don't know, man. A lot of my friends that love these films, dude. The Natural is like #1 every time. I was gonna put The Sandlot.
The Sandlot.
For sure. I love that movie, dude.
Yep.
All right, last question then. Who won the movie?
James Earl Jones, man, or Burt. It's right there, dude. I'm telling you, though that's for me the MVP. And with Burt, and for me, Burt was literally like I don't even want to say an inch, man, a millimeter behind him because he was just so impacting in the film. But James Earl Jones made me laugh, man. He made it just and that scene at the end, and he warned me about that speech, dude. I love that speech at the end.
That speech like echoes through a lot of I guess like again I refer to it baseball players. Like you can't talk to a baseball player and not have you mention a piece of that speech and not have them register where it came from or who it was said by. And I think that alone speaks to the significance of James Earl Jones and just of that speech in that movie. So for me, it's him, definitely. Yeah.
I agree with you guys. It is James Earl Jones. His voice is so powerful and it's so engaging where no matter what he's in, you're paying attention to him because it's like the gravitas he demands. You're just always locked in on him. And in this film, I bought him as almost like a semi-father figure for Costner. You know, they are kind of
well, that's kind of what happened. He took over that father figure since that was what was missing. You know, so
it really worked.
I got that too.
So yeah, James Earl Jones is the MVP for all of us, like we've been saying. I guess you could say he won the movie. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us this week. I thought this was a really fun show, guys. We got to talk some Last Dance. We got to talk about Superman and Field of Dreams. So it was a lot of fun. Marco, thank you for joining us, man. Thank you so much for jumping on the show and being a part of this. Jader, thank you for bringing him on.
No problem. I thought it was the perfect episode for you, brother.
Thank you guys so much. Like this was a lot of fun, different experience. I'll say that for sure, but definitely a lot of fun, man.
We'll have you on again when I already know where we're gonna be at, man. So if we ever discuss The Dark Knight, I'll get you on. Because he hates it.
Oh, stop it!
No, he doesn't hate it.
Well, you let me know. I'm ready. I'll be here.
I will, brother. Thanks for jumping on, man. Thank you.
No problem, guys. Thank you so much, Kyle. Nice meeting you, bud.
Yeah,
I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Marco. And thank you, everyone else, for watching with us. Jader, we had a lot of people watching us today. We actually did pretty good numbers throughout. So I'm really happy about it. Guys, tune in next week for another episode. Next week is our franchise episode. So Jader and I are going to come up with a franchise. You guys are going to maybe vote on it. We're going to discuss that after this. But we're going to
let's not make it a 22 film franchise because I don't want to.
Not this time, but
I told you, Marco, we did a 4-hour Marvel episode, and I wanted to shoot my brains out at hour 3.
Absolutely exhausted. So that won't happen next week, but we will get a franchise to talk about. We'll discuss after this. But thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Jader and Kyle Show.
Peace out, guys.